Hi everyone and welcome back! Zoe needs a haircut. Hi everyone, my name is Marie. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm a South African living in Singapore for about 6 years now, and I make videos about life in Singapore. Also, a happy Teachers Day today. Today that I'm posting this video, it is Teachers Day in Singapore. Happy Teachers Day to all the teachers. If you're not just in Singapore, but happy Teachers Day. As a teacher myself, it has been a year, and so I think we deserve this day. So enjoy it. So today I'm going to be talking about the pros and the cons about living in Singapore. These are my pros and cons, my feelings towards living in Singapore. So just to give you a little bit of a background, I first moved to Singapore in 2013, and then I lived here for 2.5 years, and I moved back to South Africa in at the end of 2015. So I lived here for about 2.5 years. Then I lived in South Africa again for about 2.5 years before I moved back to Singapore in 2018. So I have experienced moving here for the first time, living here alone, and then moving back to my country, missing Singapore, and then moving back to Singapore as well. So this is my perspective from a South African. Everyone will have their own perspectives and own ideas and pros and cons lists, depending on which country they come from. So let's start with the pros before we move on to the cons. Pro number one is the transport. The transport in Singapore is reliable, efficient, and very affordable. In South Africa, our public transport, you do not dare take a public taxi or a public bus or get on the train, which I have done. I've taken the train in South Africa, I've taken a bus across country. It's not been smooth sailing, it's not been the smoothest ride, but it definitely was an experience, and it's not something you would like to do on the daily. Also, in South Africa, just before I moved back to Singapore in 2018, I lived in Cape Town, but I lived in the suburbs of Cape Town. Now, I was working in the city center of Cape Town. That meant that every day I had to drive into the city center. Now, if there's no traffic, the road is open, it took me about 30 minutes to get to the city center, which I think is pretty okay. But traffic is so bad in South Africa that I had to wake up at 4 o'clock, 4:30 to leave home by 5:30 in the morning so that I miss traffic, so that I get to the city center at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then I would sleep in my car until 8 a.m. to go into work. That was my morning routine every morning. I just thought to myself, I was like, this is not a life. How can I live like this? Because if I wake up too late and I do not leave home by 5:30 or 5:45, I will get stuck in traffic and it will take me over 2 hours to get into the city center. So living in Singapore, I really find the transport system to be amazing. Another pro for me is definitely that Singapore is a city-state, but there's just over 5 million people living in Singapore. That is a lot, but also not. If you look at cities like London, Seoul, Tokyo, with millions and millions of people just living in the city, Singapore have just over 5 million people living here. So yes, things can get busy, but it doesn't feel as crowded. When I lived in South Korea, if you went to Seoul, you had to mentally prepare yourself a week in advance to brace the crowds of Seoul. And of course, safety. Safety for me as a female, I do not take it for granted 1 second. Every day when I'm walking, and I walk perhaps after dark, or I walk down an alleyway, I feel safe. And of course, low crime doesn't mean no crime. But coming from South Africa, like I've mentioned in some of my previous videos, living in Singapore is just such a blessing. We are so blessed in Singapore with the safety that we have here. Now, Singapore might be small, but it is a melting pot of cultures, and I love it. It is so colorful. You can really learn a lot about many different cultures in Singapore. South Africa is also a rainbow nation and we have many different cultures there. But when I lived in South Korea, it was only the Korean culture that I had to get to know and learn from. But in Singapore, there are so many different cultures you can learn from. And there's so many communities here that you can join and make friends with and learn from them. And so much different food variety from different cultures that you can eat and taste. And it is just such a vibrant melting pot of cultures that really teaches you a lot. Of course, I can't leave out food. The food is absolutely amazing in Singapore. Really, really. Let go of your thoughts about what your home cooked food is in your homemade meal and your comfort food, because you have to try every single dish in Singapore. And I think if you have to try every single dish in Singapore, you will need quite a few years, because there's so much food you can try here and it's never boring. It is so easy to access anything in Singapore. Everything is online shopping, home deliveries. Everything is so easy to access. And also, it's so easy to travel from Singapore. You have easy access to countries like Thailand, Australia, Vietnam, Cambodia, Seoul. I am one flight away from South Africa. I can fly directly on Singapore Airlines to Johannesburg in 10 hours. I mean, that's so amazing. And that's one of the reasons why I also chose Singapore, is because I'm far but close from home. Singapore is very efficient in everything and anything they do. They really make sure they do it well and they make sure that it's done on time. And this is very different, and one of the biggest reasons why I also came back to Singapore is because of its efficiency. Things get done around here, and that is so different from what I'm used to in South Africa. Things work at a different pace back home. We have a saying. We will say, yes, I'll do that now. Now doesn't mean now. It doesn't mean in 5 minutes. You never really know when it will happen. It might be now, might be a year from now or 2 years from now. But it's just like, yeah, I'll do that now. Now? No, now. Now? No, now. In Singapore, things get done. Now, before I get to my cons list, have you subscribed to my channel? Remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification before I continue. I'm giving you a few seconds. Good. Now my cons list. I think one of the biggest things on the cons list is, well, it's a pro and it's a con, but I chose to put it in my cons one at this moment. It's just because I've been stuck in Singapore for over 2 years. I haven't experienced the winter season in over 3 years. So I'm gonna put this one here and say it's always hot. It's always hot and humid. Yeah, you lose sense of time. There's no seasons. It's just hot, hotter, hottest. I'm sure you've heard that Singapore is always topping the list for the most expensive cities in the world. And I'm gonna tell you, no, Singapore is not expensive, you're expensive. If you come from another country thinking that you're gonna have the type of lifestyle you had in your own country here, no. You are moving to a different country. It's different standards, different ways of living. So if you can adapt to the Singaporean culture, the Singaporean way of living, it won't be as expensive. But people can't lose their habits and they want to live a certain way, and then things can get expensive because non-essential items are expensive in Singapore, especially alcohol, especially wine, especially because I'm from South Africa and I love a good bottle of wine. They sell a South African wine, I'm not gonna name names, in cold storage in the stores here. Now, that bottle of wine is like the worst wine you can buy in South Africa. It's the wine that students buy because they can't afford anything else and they want to have a glass of wine. Now, they sell that in South Africa. I think it's equal to about $4, and they sell it in Singapore for like $22. That breaks my brain. I can't. I'm sorry, I can't. Singapore is not known for its great customer service, and yes, this is a con. Another thing now is whenever I check in with the Safe Entry check-in or the Trace Together app when I go into a mall, I always greet the people. 20% of the time the people will greet me back. Of course, it's not maybe the most exciting job in the world, but just a hello would suffice. Now, I think you know Singapore is a fine city, and so there are a lot of rules. Now, this is not so much a con for me that much, because I actually do enjoy the rules and I do enjoy the structure it gives. And having so many rules actually have now resulted in Singapore managing the current global pandemic in such a great way that the world is recognizing Singapore for its efforts. But this has resulted in many rules being imposed, which means that I haven't seen my family for 2 years now. So that is why I pushed it down to my con list for now, and that is why it is on this list until borders open up and I can travel again and see my family. Alright, so that's my pros and cons for living in Singapore, and I hope you enjoy it. Also guys, I am working behind the scenes on something very exciting that's going to launch on my birthday on the 5th of October. So as we go through the weeks, I will start to share a little bit more about what's happening and what I'm gonna launch. So yes, I'm very excited for that. If you want to guess what I'm going to launch, you can leave your ideas down below in the comment section, and then we can see who guessed correctly. But until next week Friday, be good, do good, and keep on smiling. I'll see you next week. Bye!